All right. All right, so today is Wednesday, May 13th, and you are in the kitchen with Chef Brassard today, and we are going to be making a bacon and cheddar frittata. Okay. Now, if you've never had a frittata, or if you've never made one, it's kind of like a big pan omelet. Okay. So we're going to be doing a few things. I'm going to be showing you one that's already done in a little bit, and show you how this all goes together. Okay. So a couple of things is that I am using bacon and cheddar cheese with mine, but you can make it with pretty much anything, right? You can do with ham, right? You can do with vegetables, right? So things like asparagus, spinach, tomatoes, onions, right? So pretty much it's a great way to use up leftovers that are in the fridge, okay? So try and think of things that you can throw in for flavor, right? Fresh herbs, you may want to spice it up a little bit. You can put in some things like jalapeno peppers, right? A little crushed red pepper and stuff, so you can make it spicy. You can make it mild, either way. So the first thing on the recipe for today is the bacon, right? So I cooked the bacon earlier in the oven, just so that way to save us time for this part here, right? So half a pound of bacon, so about 5-6 strips of bacon, okay? So what I did earlier is I cooked this on another sheet pan. I put it on here on the paper towels and let it drain off the excess fat, okay? So I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna chop up this bacon in a little bit, but I'm gonna get my eggs and stuff started first, okay? So I'm gonna set this aside for a minute. We'll get back to that. You wanna make sure that when you cook the bacon that you let it cool completely and then chop it up, okay? So you don't want to get burnt. So we're going to be starting off with 10 eggs, okay? So now you want to make sure that you're using large eggs, brown shells, white shells, farm fresh eggs. If you got a neighbor that's got chickens, doesn't matter, okay? So I've already got 8 eggs here in the bowl, right? I've got my whisk ready to go. So I'm going to add in the last 2, all right? So like I said, I've got 8 here, so I'm going to add in 9, so crack it on the counter, right? And remember too that by cracking on the counter, you're less likely to get shells inside. But if you do get shells, especially when you mix in a big bowl of this, you don't want to be sticking your finger in there trying to pick out eggshells. Use the shell itself. All right, so going back to our eggs here, a little bit of drama. All right, so 10 eggs in the bowl, and I got 1 cup of milk. All right, so I'm going to pour that in, and that's going to help make this frittata really nice and light and fluffy, okay? Now, also you're going to need 2 tablespoons of melted butter. So I melted that in the microwave earlier, and I left it here on top of the warm oven, right, which I've got my oven on right now at 350 degrees. So I'm going to take and add that in. Make sure that it's warm, but you don't want the butter too hot because you don't want it to start cooking the eggs, okay? Add that in. And now I'm going to add in about 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Okay, so I'm just going to use my pepper grinder here because I like fresh black pepper, but you can measure out 1/4 teaspoon already ground, which is fine. Right, so I'm going to give this a couple of really good grains of black pepper. Now with this here, right, I'm not going to put in any salt. Okay, the reason for that is that the bacon is salty on its own. So same thing if you were using ham too. Okay, so no salt for this. If I was doing a frittata that was just vegetables and things, I would add in about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So a couple of good pinches of salt would be fine. Okay, but I don't want to make this too salty, so no salt in this one right now. Okay, so then I'm going to add in my bacon. Okay, so I've got my bacon, like I said, already pre-cooked earlier, drained on some paper towels to get off the extra grease because I don't want this to get too greasy. Okay. All your dishes clean as you're going. Okay. So with the bacon, I'm just going to chop this up into some little strips. Okay. Now, if I didn't pre-cook the bacon, it would never fully cook in the frittata. Okay. You wouldn't be able to get this nice crispy texture to it. Okay. You would end up with raw and chewy bacon inside, and we don't want that. Okay. got our bacon. Okay. So I'm going to add that right into my egg mixture. And get all those nice little tasty bits. Okay. All right. So now that we've got that in there, I'm going to add in some scallions, right? So green onions. Okay. So with these here, I'm going to take and trim off a little bit off the top because you can see how this is a little bit on the dry side up here. Okay. Also look for any pieces that are dry down at the bottom that you might have to peel away, right? So like this little piece here. So I'm going to trim those up, slice them nice and thin. Okay. And I need about 1/4 of a cup, right? And this is a 1/4 cup dish here, so I'm going to fill up this dish. All right. So trimming off the stems. I don't need the stem part here. What I'm actually going to do with these is throw these into my garden. If I put them in this way, right, with the roots down, they'll actually regrow, and I'll be able to snip these off in a couple of weeks for some more fresh scallions. Okay. All right. So with these, like I said, nice thin slices. And this is going to give a lot of color to this dish too, right? But it's also going to give me that nice onion flavor without being too strong. Okay. If you're going to use regular onions in this dish, whether they're red or white, you'd want to saute them first, right? Caramelize them, so that way they don't end up tasting raw in the dish. Okay. So I've got my 1/4 cup of scallions I'm going to add into my egg mixture. Right. And then I already have measured out here a cup of just shredded cheddar cheese, right? You can use cheddar, you can use Parmesan, Monterey Jack. If you want a little bit of spice, pepper jack cheese goes great in these too. Okay, so just add that in. I'm gonna put it into the side there. And then what I went out and did this morning is I went and picked some fresh herbs, right? So I have some fresh oregano and some German thyme from the garden. So those of you in nutrition class will see some stuff in my garden this week. And I'll be sharing that with everybody else later on. So I'm just going to take and pull these off of the stem, right? They're very young plants, so nice and tender, but still very flavorful, right? So when you have plants like this, you can just peel back those little leaves. Okay. You could use dried herbs in here. So oregano, thyme, basil, any of those will work. Right. Just to give it a little something extra. Okay. So pull off all those little dried leaves. And what I'm going to do is just rough chop it just a little bit. Okay. And this is going to help release all those flavors out of the fresh herbs. Okay. Goes right in. And then what you want to do is just give this a really good whisk. Make sure everything's blended really well. This is why we crack the eggs and whisk those up first, right? It makes it a little bit easier to get everything else all blended together, right? So frittatas are great for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner with a salad, right? So there's my blend right there. And I'm going to be putting this into a 10-inch skillet, okay? So the skillet, this one here is a cast iron skillet that I'm going to oil up a little bit. You can use a regular frying pan, but make sure that you can put that handle into the oven. So you don't want anything that's plastic coated on there that can't go in the oven because you want something melting, right? You can also put this into a baking dish. So if you don't have a pan that can go in the oven like this, you can use like a lasagna pan, like a 7 by 11 size, okay? So I'm just going to take a little bit of olive oil into my pan, right? About a tablespoon. And a little paper towel, right? Clean paper towel. And then I'm just going to use that to brush that oil all across the bottom and up the sides of the pan, right? Because I want to make sure that this frittata comes out nice and easily later. So I'm going to give it a nice coating, okay? All right, so then I'm going to fill my egg mixture right into here, and then it's going to go into the oven, okay? Give it another quick stir. Pour that in. Making sure you get all the little bits. A little stir around too. And then this is going to go right into a 350-degree oven. Okay. Already got on here. So there's the mixture before. Okay. And I have one that's already done. Okay. So this is the finished frittata. Okay. You'll see that it, like I said, it's like a big giant omelet. Okay. This will easily serve, 8 slices, right? So depending on how hungry everybody is, 4 to 8 people, depending on what you put with it. If you're doing multiple flavors, right, for a brunch or things like that, cut the slices a little bit on the thinner side, right? What I'm going to do here is just slice this up so I can show you what it looks like on the inside. Here, dish. Okay, so you can see the inside of that texture, right? Looks really nice. Okay, these can be eaten hot, straight from the pan, right? You don't have to take it out and put it into a tray or anything unless you want to make it look nice. But this can also be eaten at room temperature. Okay, it heats up great. A couple of seconds in the microwave. You can warm it up in the oven again too the next day. So it's great for leftovers for another meal. Okay. All right, so that's it for today. So this is a great way, like I said, to use up your leftover eggs and ingredients, and happy cooking.